Elder Marcus talked on character. And it just so happened that the next word I'm going to talk to you guys about today is change. Now, when we think about change, there's so much that we could think about because it applies to so much in our lives, whether we are at work, whether we at church, whether we're in the streets, whether we are alone. Change applies in every circumstances of our lives. Like I said, whether it's publicly or privately. The title I have today, I actually changed it up a little bit. I said, what does change mean to you? But with every word, it's not a you, it's an us, because it applies to me too. See, this whole change thing didn't start today, didn't start within this week. It started from a while back. And the name Men of Change, as far as it is under the Royal Eagles Men's Club of this great church, to incorporate change, to incorporate changes that we need amongst ourselves as men, how we conduct ourselves as men, as husbands, as fathers, as brothers, as uncles, as whatever title that falls within that, godfathers, everything. So God has really been dealing with me when it comes down to change. And I realized that, of course, with everything, you have to change. So the title I have today here is, what does change mean to us? And of course, with every great thing, with every great word that we have, it's always important for us to, as Elder Marcus has done it so gracefully, we define it. So we look at change. These are three of the definitions, and I kind of, it down there just to, in the simple terms. And it says, definition of change: to become different, to make someone or something different, to become something else. It's so important that we understand that how change works, because change is not always instantaneous change. One of the greatest examples of this, and the most visible of them that people seem to always talk about, is how nature changes. It changes from one season to the next season, from winter to spring to summer, back to the fall. And of course, when you look at the trees, you can see these changes beginning to take place. You don't just go to bed at night, wake up the next morning, and the season has changed. No, you see the tree outside in your front yard begin to change its leaves. It's also preparing itself for the next season. So it's changing because God has orchestrated it to be worked that way in order for its survival. See, a tree sacrifices its leaves in the winter because it knows that it's not going to get what it needs from the environment. So to protect itself, it begins to change the leaves to the aspect that they fall away. They fall to the ground. Now, mind you, those leaves fall to the ground, and Leah could tell you more about that. They began to change the texture of the soil. If you know anything about, my next door neighbor was a crazy gardener, and if you know anything about compost, one of the major aspects of compost is leaves and debris and things of that nature of the earth. So these changes happen for reasons to benefit things around us that we don't even see. So we need those trees, we need those leaves, we need all of those things to incorporate. We discussed this. Changes are not instantaneously. They happen gradually over time. The very important thing is we need to learn the seasons of our lives. We need to learn and operate within those seasons. If there's snow outside on the ground, there's no reason for us to go outside and cut the grass, because you're going to have to cut through the snow first before you get to the grass. So it's important for us to realize the seasons that God is taking us in, and we have to be mindful of when that transition starts to happen. Sometimes we resist change, and when we resist change, that's a bad thing, because now we're operating in a season that we're not meant to operate in. So we have to be careful to pay attention to what God is orchestrating in our lives and in our environment. There's so many things that can go wrong when we're, they say outside the will of God is a bad place to be. And it's the same way with the seasons. The seasons in our lives, as they change, we have to follow we have to follow that. We can't fight against that and be like, I want to stay right here. I'm going to stay right here. I want to stay, like the old song, stay planted by the rivers. You just want to stay there. But God is telling you that you have to change. That tree planted by the river, although it's planted, it still changes. One of the things I love to see is one of those time-lapse videos when they put a camera on something, whether it's a plant or a cocoon, a butterfly, and you watch it